So Brian Stelter had a debate about free speech and censorship on YouTube on his show Reliable Sources. Let's watch a bit of that and then we'll discuss.
Where is the line and who's deciding? Every week there's news about a tech company banning accounts. This week it's been YouTube announcing they're going to ban white supremacist content, Nazi content, also videos denying proven atrocities like the Holocaust and the Sandy Hook shooting. Might sound like a great thing, but there's also been a backlash, and there's also been some problems with the way it's being enforced. Some educational videos about these issues have also been removed and banned. Let's bring back our panel to discuss this. SC Cup, it seems like it's been a year now with conversations about banning accounts.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of changes in that year, and I think people find the slope to be very slippery.
It's a tough line to navigate. In this case, I think erring on the side of not censoring is generally the best position, especially when censoring includes educational information, facts, history. I find it particularly jarring, though, that the people begging corporations to censor this are mostly journalists. That is really alarming to me.
Are journalists begging, or are they calling out extremist content on the platforms?
They are doing both. They are saying, YouTube, you must do something about this, and that something is generally get rid of this content. And I don't have to say I hate this content.
But journalists exercise editorial judgment every day.
Sure.
That's not censorship. That's deciding what's good quality content and what's incitement. I mean, the larger question here, I think, is that it's beyond white supremacist content, right? It's misogynistic content. It is anti-vax. It is
none of that's illegal.
It is pedophilia.
But whatever happens, that's illegal. But whatever happened to meet terrible speech with more speech?
That's right.
But the recommendation engine of YouTube takes us into a new territory, right? There's been excellent reporting and studies in the last week, a lot of it published in the New York Times, showing that beyond even this more speech, the recommendation engine of YouTube is driving people towards ever more extreme content. That's an editorial curation that they are doing.
And on that, I agree with you. The algorithm is able to radicalize
and they want to make money off that. They've been making money off that. That's part of their. So they have to have an editorial. Every journalism organization.
It's not a journalism organization.
Well, okay, but
we're out of time. We will keep it going this time next week on More Reliable Sources.
This is all happening at once now. The New York Times just did a long article, and here, I'll show you the title of that one. It says, Caleb Kane was a college dropout looking for direction. He turned to YouTube, and then it goes on to say he was brainwashed, and then they tell you his personal story. Now, I've actually seen, there's a great video that Caleb released on his channel that explains how he got radicalized on YouTube and how he got out of it. Now, I have nothing but love for Caleb. I love the video that I saw. I love the people who he watches now on YouTube. I think are great people, great political commentators and you know, cultural commentators or whatever the hell you want to call them. And also, he follows me on Twitter, so he's got wonderful taste. Now he does. Back in the past, he doesn't, but he would admit that he didn't back in the past either. But having said that, I think you would be naive to not realize what's happening now is that YouTube and mainstream media are using fringe cases as a reason, giving them an excuse to crack down more on the fringe content, on the borderline content, as they call it, and to try to scrub YouTube to make it squeaky clean, to make it more advertiser friendly. Now, you know, some people might support that. Okay, but that's not the original idea of YouTube. The original idea of YouTube is that it's just a medium, and you put whatever you want to put up there, and there are rules, but very, very few rules, and the idea is as long as you're not doing like direct threats of violence or doxing people or clear cases of libel or slander, then, you know, it's basically anything goes. I mean, that's the idea. It's a very strange thing, in my opinion, when, you know, like SE Cup said, journalists go to Twitter, go to Facebook, or go to YouTube and say, they're bad people who said bad things on your site. And that's like, if you have a bathroom and somebody wrote some fucked up shit, let's say they wrote some homophobic or racist shit on a bathroom wall, and you call the wall company, and you're like, why is there bad stuff on your wall? And they're like, I don't know. I didn't post that shit. I just built the wall and put the wall up in the bathroom. That's got nothing to do with me. But it's your wall. Why are you allowing bad shit on your wall? I had nothing to do with it. I just built the wall and put it up. I'm not responsible for everybody who walks in and writes some crazy shit on the fucking wall. What are you talking about? If you go to @TeamYouTube on Twitter, type that in and read the stuff everybody tweets them. It's nonstop, one after another, of channels being like, I got demonetized, what the fuck? Or, you never monetized me in the first place. Or, I'm not violating the terms of service at all, what are you doing? And you know what it is? I'll tell you what it is, because I went through it with the first adpocalypse. They cannot differentiate between genuinely hateful content and content that exposes the hateful content or calls out the hateful content or brings transparency to hateful content. They can't distinguish. So in other words, if I do a video where I'm calling out Richard Spencer, they don't distinguish between that and a Richard Spencer video. So a video that's literally pro-white nationalism is treated the same as a video that disagrees with and destroys white nationalism using arguments. And so it's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly sloppy. But my whole point to people, particularly on the left who are in favor of the crackdown here, is what you don't understand is they will never walk the line properly. So in other words, it's not like they're ever going to say, okay, fine, we're going to ban we're going to ban people and demonetize, but only the right people. That's not how it works. When you open the door to demonetization and censorship and banning, there is no little bit of censorship, a little bit of deplatforming, a little bit of demonetizing. It's always going to be like this, where, to pull down one hateful person, Ford Fisher goes. It's always going to be like that because there's so much content on YouTube, and the only way they can go about, taking action is through algorithms, and the algorithms aren't smart enough to make the proper distinctions. And the thing that really should scare everybody is they literally admitted that we're going after borderline content now. So in other words, it's not just, okay, only the things that really clearly cross the line are we going after. No, now they're saying, well, if it's borderline, we'll take action too. Now, the action may be less severe in some cases. Sometimes it's not less severe. But in some cases, it might be less severe where we just, put an age restriction on the video or we take it so that it doesn't show up in recommendeds or whatever. But when you're treating borderline content like, it can't be seen and it has to be hidden and you can't find it in the search engine, I mean, what you're doing is you're effectively giving these people who create the so-called borderline content no way of being a real YouTuber, a serious YouTuber, somebody who gets, a channel that becomes popular. And borderline is in the eye of the beholder. I shouldn't have to make that point, but unfortunately in today's climate, I absolutely do have to make that point. But so what is borderline? I guarantee you YouTube's version of borderline is way different from my version or your version of borderline. Because they said it, hey, we're going to take down anti-vax content, misogynistic content. Now, I'm against misogyny, and I'm definitely against anti-vaxxers and for vaccines, but should you be allowed to discuss it? Yes. Yes. And what counts as sexist? What counts as sexist? If you call a female politician an asshole, is that sexist? Because some people would say, yes, she's a female politician, you're calling her an asshole. I mean, there's so many examples of, borderline. Probably more than half my videos would be considered borderline by YouTube. I mean, seriously, how much stuff do I do on foreign policy? Where we talk about Iran, where we talk about U.S. war crimes, where we talk about Saudi Arabia, where we talk about Israel. I mean, there's so much content where some people might call it borderline. When I go after, the top 1%, go after the Wall Street goons, some people would call that borderline. When I go after corporations, are you kidding me? Absolutely, they would call that borderline. So this is the door that we've opened now. And like I said, look at what's already happening. I don't need to use a slippery slope argument because that's a criticism that's levied at me many times. Like, oh, you're using the slippery slope fallacy. It's not a fallacy if we're already halfway down that slippery ass slope. Go talk to Ford Fisher about whether or not the slippery slope argument makes sense in this situation. Okay? Go talk to Mr. Alsop's history. Go talk to any of the people who were demonetized totally unjustly, where there's not even a close to an argument that can be made that's legitimate as to them being pulled down. Now, In the case of Caleb Cain, let's talk a little bit about that. So yes, he got radicalized. He got pulled into this vortex. There are some commentators who serve as more or less a gateway to worse content. I think that's a real phenomenon. I don't know how prevalent it is. So in other words, I don't know if some people, they start watching one commentator and then it's an inevitable slide all the way down to the fringes of the internet. And next thing you know, you're cheering on white nationalism with Stefan Molyneux or whatever. Because I think some people might just watch the so-called gateways and then just stay there and not go deeper. So I think maybe a little bit too much is made of that dynamic, but it is certainly a dynamic that exists. And it does happen with some people. But what is conveniently being ignored is, in the case of Caleb Cain, you know what got him out of it? More YouTubers. So he went down this rabbit hole. He was all of a sudden, an alt-right kind of guy. And then what got him out of it, one of the things that got him out of it was Destiny. Destiny's a lefty Twitch streamer. And he was doing debates with, I think, Lauren Southern on race and IQ. And he's done that debate time and time and time again. And, long story short, Destiny made these clowns look ridiculous. He exposed them for being really vapid and not really knowing much. And he poked a zillion holes in their argument. And Caleb Cain, that was, kind of like a light bulb moment. And then the process began of him getting out of these hateful views. So it's a weird thing to talk about how evil and wrong and terrible YouTube is. You're willing to give YouTube the blame for the people who end up having shitty beliefs, but you're not willing to give YouTube the credit when people get out of those shitty beliefs or never had those shitty beliefs to begin with or developed a totally different political ideology because of YouTube. So in other words, they're not saying, there's no article that's saying, oh, as a result of this YouTuber watching David Pakman and Sam Cedar and the Young Turks and Jimmy Dore and Kyle Kulinski and Destiny and whoever, Humanist Report and Rational National and Benjamin Dixon, as a result of, this person watching all those YouTubers, they went on to, start a shelter for homeless kids, and they got involved in politics, and they got involved in their state government or their local government, and they helped increase wages. You don't hear those stories because they don't view that as a story. They view it as, I guess it's a good thing, but I'm not going to look into that. That's just happy-go-lucky. So this is the same kind of problem we see with the media in general, and how they cover right-wing activism versus how they cover left-wing activism. They view right-wing activism as like inherently sexy. So Grover Norquist releases this anti-tax pledge that he makes all of the Republican politicians sign, and he gets a zillion profiles. Richard Spencer goes on a fucking white nationalism tour, and he gets a zillion profiles. I co-founded Justice Democrats, which helped got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and others elected. I didn't get a fucking profile. I'm not complaining at a personal level. I'm just explaining how there's this weird dynamic in the media where like right-wing activism is sexy to them. The Tea Party, ooh, endless coverage. Justice Democrats, did they get endless coverage? No. The night Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez got elected, a lot of them were like, who? Who's Alexandria Ocasio? What? The Justice Democrats? What is that? I don't even understand what that means. Cenk Uygur just launched another project called the Progressive Economic Pledge, where he says, hey, here are 5 planks, and if you're running for president, you have to sign on to it so we know you're on our side. And it's this big thing. It was big online. We just spoke about it before. And is mainstream media covering that at all? No. So there's this weird bias, this selection bias towards like dark, creepy, extremist content. And you get the sense that, oh my God, YouTube is nothing but this fucking cesspool that turns people into terrible human beings when they don't give you any context and they don't explain at all how, well, it's weird. The solution to that with many people was other YouTubers who are preaching the right thing, who are preaching lefty ideas. And even people I like Lee Fong of The Intercept, he was tweeting the other day like, well, what this article goes to show you in the New York Times is that there really isn't like a left-wing infrastructure on YouTube. Are you fucking kidding me? What have I been doing for the past fucking 5 years of my life? More than that, actually. 7 years of my life. Doing left-wing commentary and content nonstop. And it's not just me, it's others too. But that's, like, it's not true. It's how it's portrayed. So if the answer to fucking insane right-wing YouTubers was a left-wing Twitch streamer and left-wing YouTubers, why isn't that a bigger part of the story? Why aren't we being propped up? Why shouldn't the mainstream media be singing our praises? Oh shit, Destiny got this guy going, he fixed this guy's life after he was going down a bad path. Wow, maybe we should give him a glowing profile. Maybe we should talk about him. Never would they do that. So that's what's frustrating to me is people want to take a shortcut to defeating these odious reactionaries. And their shortcut is like, and the article's tone is crystal clear. It's like implying and begging for more censorship from Silicon Valley. Oh, we got to do something. And in their minds, they think, well, if we just ban them and we just yell at YouTube to do more censorship and more deplatforming and more demonetizing, well, then we'll win. No, then people fucking hate you even more. Because it is a shortcut. It is cheating. I don't know, just fucking get them out of the discourse completely. Those ideas don't go away. They just fester now on 4chan. And they go to other, dark corners of the internet. So, what we need is, by the way, yes, you can have basic rules. No direct threats of violence, no doxing. Like I said a zillion times. No libel, no slander, things like that. But it's got to be crystal clear. But outside of those very few rules, yes, it's supposed to be an open platform. And you're not giving the platform any credit for the overwhelming positive stuff, and all you're doing is blaming it for the negative stuff and demanding that they take action and they fucking do more censorship. And it's shitty. It's a terrible idea. And now we're at the point where they've come out and said it. Oh, what we're going to do now is we're going to go after the borderline content. I really think that the example of conspiracies is the best one to illustrate the point. Because they start with, like, okay, well, obviously, Sandy Hook being a hoax, people saying that's brought a lot of pain to people, so we're going to clamp down on that. And then it became Flat Earth, and they're saying we're going to delist or whatever those videos. And then again, the next question is, well, what about 9/11 truth? They probably have acted on that, and if they haven't acted yet, I bet they will. But then again, then it becomes JFK. I mean, more than half the country thinks that it wasn't as we were told. It's not the official story of Lee Harvey Oswald. There's a lot of content about that. I've seen a documentary about that on the fucking History Channel. But that might be a little too extreme and not cookie cutter enough for YouTube. So then they act on that. And then we get into modern politics. Oh, are you questioning whether or not it was jihadist rebels or Assad that did the gas attack? We're going to get rid of you. This is the path we're going down. Oh, are you saying that Saddam Hussein didn't do 9/11 and doesn't have weapons of mass destruction? We're going to get rid of you. See, again, this was the political climate at the time. You were the conspiracy theorist if you said Saddam Hussein does not have weapons of mass destruction. You were the conspiracy theorist at that time. Today, we know you were right, but if YouTube existed at the time with all the journalists begging for censorship, who do you think they're going to take down? The people advocating for war or the people advocating against war? They're going to take down the anti-war voices. This is the way that this stuff functions, man. And what happens in a case where we know it was mainstream media that was doing fake news? How many of the Russiagate stories were totally false? Like when they said Paul Manafort met with Julian Assange, totally untrue. So if CNN or MSNBC runs a segment on that and puts it on YouTube, can they get pulled down for that? Will they get pulled down for that, for spreading fake news? See, here's what's going to happen. And they already said it. Oh, we're going to redirect to more authoritative content. But the reason why people are on YouTube is to escape the authoritative content. Because they don't fucking like it. They don't like the cookie cutter bullshit. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS. They get stuff wrong all the time on top of just being boring. So look at the stuff, man. CNN just finished with Jake Tapper doing a smear campaign against Medicare for All, where they were wrong about everything. Will YouTube take down the Jake Tapper video where he says that Medicare for All costs more money even though it saves $5 trillion? Are they going to take down that video? Of course not. They would push a video like that because this is not about what's actually true. This is not about what's objective. This is about we're going to push up the authoritative voices and get rid of the fringe, borderline, independent voices, and we're going to make YouTube more squeaky clean. And would you look at that? In the process, we propped up the existing corporate order, and there are no more threats to the existing corporate order. That's where this ends up. And if you don't see it, I would beg you to reconsider, because it's not going to go down the way you think it's going to go down. It's not going to go down with, oh, they'll just go after all the hateful people and that'll be the end of it. No, that's not even close to what's going to happen. And I know that because it's already not happening like that. Open your eyes.